Let's see. There's in Royal Archmasonry. There is one kind of god who has a cat head, a frog head, and then a regular human head as well. Some people out there might know it. I don't know if you know it, Michael, but there's another name that seems to me very similar in style to Asimodeus. He has a bull's head. At least this is one depiction, I should say, from Dictionnaire Infernal. It's called. It's Colin de Plancy's depiction of Asimodeus, and it's very. It actually looks like one of these Masonic deities if you go behind the scenes and up the ladder in the Masonic hierarchy, as it were.
Yeah, Asmodeus is typically depicted as a three-headed being and as one of the high princes of hell. That's very common. It wouldn't shock me at all. In fact, I happen to know that the Masons acknowledge him as a real character, and he's a deity to them for sure. Then he's cruel. Even the other spirits and even some of the characters in hell aren't nearly as cruel as this guy.
Okay, really, huh?
Yeah.
And then there is, let's see here, there's a few other characters here as well. Kingu, tell us about this deity.
Well, from the Necronomicon, it's basically the military commander of the demonic hordes. He doesn't really make any of the wide decisions, just the military decisions. And from what the Necronomicon puts down is that the covenant between us and the demons was sealed with his blood, so that we have a bit of demonic genetics ourselves, but at the same time we can now fully control that entire race, and they are now subject to us because of this small amount of demonic blood that we have.
I just looked up the name here quickly. Jabulon, obviously, was what I was thinking about, and I just saw some connections between Jabulon and Asimodeus right there.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't shock me. Jabulon.
Jabulon, that's right. Anyway, there's this interesting, again, story then if we look at Sumerian mythology again. Tiamat is one. It's been speculated by many other researchers that this actually is a planet. It's a story of planetary upheaval, that it's a planetary body coming into our solar system, wreaking havoc and basically splitting up and creating different parts and different planets. One might be Earth, the other half might be the Moon or even Mars. There's so many different theories and versions out here. But you have another take in regards to Tiamat, Michael. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's slightly different than the Michael Tazarian version, that I can say, where Tiamat was described as a planet that was destroyed, and it was perhaps a watery planet. And but in the Necronomicon, it's kind of a vague description, because it's described as a female who is a god, but at the same time, the universe that we know is made from her flesh. So it's a very it's whether she's like some kind of computer program or she's actually a god. I'm not entirely sure. There's the mention of the planet breaking up. There's a lot of confusion even in me for regarding that. I don't really know whether. I know Tiamat was not just a planet; was definitely another character. That's for sure. Well, it's mentioned in many other black magician books as a goddess.
What if we are looking at a scenario where it actually is both? Because if we read a lot of Egyptian mythology, again, we have the connection between Egyptian and Sumerian, Babylonian. We have a kind of a progression and how the mythology has developed, if you will. But what we have in Egyptian mythology is often that we have earthly representations of the heavenly bodies, the planets in this case. So we might be talking about a scenario that, yes, there actually was a planet moving in, but a consequence of this is that there could have been beings, carried on the planet or following the planet, if you will, in ships or something like this even. But when they landed on Earth or came upon the Earth, they also got the role of being representative for this heavenly body. So we might potentially looking at a scenario where actually both are true in terms of the mythological record, Michael.
Sure. In fact, you'll find that happens plenty of times where we get the symbols and the god themselves confused. Like, for instance, the sun god. Many people, in the conspiracy world believe that the Illuminati is engaged in some kind of mindless sun worship, and this is absolutely not the case. No more so than Christians are engaged in mindless cross worship. The sun is a symbol for a god, and just like the cross is a symbol for the man who died on it. So they're not really, it's just a symbol for a person, and sometimes I think over time the symbolic and the literal get mixed up, and so we get the impression that they're actually worshiping the sun, but that's not the case. You could be right.
You have some other information in terms of what you call the seven Anunnaki. I don't know if this is the same as the Watchers or the Elders that you talk about, but Anunnaki obviously is a connection here. Again, we're back to Sumerian / Babylonian mythology. But do you think that they were talking about demons as well, as opposed to another race of beings coming down, as the popular story goes?
I'm not really sure, because to us, we consider Watchers fallen angels or demons, but in the Necronomicon and a lot of other black magic texts, these are actually different characters. These are actually different races altogether. What we call the Watchers, what we call the demons, they aren't really demons. They became demons through their disobedience to God, perhaps, but these were originally, I think these are all separate races. And in other Necronomicons, they're referred to as separate races.
So what about the Watchers then, or the Elders? Are these similar ones then, or what's their property? Because it seems to me, if we follow the Necronomicon, that these are a little bit more benevolent being almost. They're watching over the progression of earthly life, if you know what I mean.
Well, in the Necronomicon, the top Watchers are remote and don't engage in human affairs at all. But the lower Watchers are what we would call angels, and their job is to counteract the evil that the demons that are just free flowing, the elementals that are just around us at all times, and they're constantly whispering into our ear. So you would associate them with the angels, and you would associate them with more benevolent, and that you can directly conjure them, just like the demons, given the sacrifice and at the time of the year is correct.
Okay. What if we talk a little bit about how to conjure up beings? I even think that in the Necronomicon, then there is almost like instructions on how to do this, and there's been, well, you hear stories again about people meddling in this stuff. They try it out, and in some cases nothing seems to be happening. In some cases, something is happening. What's your take on this? Or when you're working with this material, or you're interested in that? You feel the allure of, let's try it, see if it actually works, or do you just study it for what it is, but very careful in regards to what you do with the material?
Well, I personally don't do anything, but every black magic book is essentially a manual on demon conjuring, and like I said, the Necronomicon isn't much different, aside from the fact that more than just giving you conjurations on how to get them out of their lamps, it also gives you quite a bit of information about their properties, and like I said, the extra dimensions and Earth's history, and so it's definitely a grab bag.
Does he mention protection as well on how you need to do it in order to make get the demon, then, if you will, to work with you as opposed to against you? I guess one outcome we can look at is that they will always work against you anyway. That's what I've heard, at least from other sources, that it doesn't matter if you think that you're getting something out of the relationship that you begin with the demon, but that you actually, at the end of the day, you're going to end up losing anyway, because they get from you what they want at the end of the day.
Well, firstly, you got to draw a circle on the ground, and it's got to be adorned with symbols and an altar, usually in the middle of the circle. And these symbols on the ground are what protects you and keeps the demon isolated until the ritual is completed. Also, you'll find symbols that are actually on the person, actually on the black magicians who go into the chamber. And these are to protect you. As for never working on your side, as long as you're specific, the demons enjoy a bit of irony in that if you're not specific with your instructions, they'll use this as an excuse to do other stuff while here on our plane. So you have to be very specific.